Hey, Pinheads, welcome back to Psych Opinion. If you haven't heard the news, A24 has recently bought Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which has inspired me to come on here and talk to y'all about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I want to talk about, first of all, every movie, every timeline, and kind of what led us up to now. And then maybe we can discuss a little bit together if you would comment for me what we're looking at in the future, at least what your opinion is. So let's get into this. Few horror franchises are as influential or as confusing as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Depending on which movie you watch, Leatherface is a frightened victim, a brutal slasher, a misunderstood anti-hero, or a walking symbol of generational violence. Different families, different timelines, different tone. So today, we're breaking down every Texas Chainsaw movie, explaining how the timelines work, and ending with what it means now that A24 holds the rights, and what the future of this franchise might look like. So first, let's go ahead and start with the Sawyer timeline. This is original continuity. This timeline begins with Tobe Hooper's original vision and spirals outward into chaos. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Tobe Hooper, my man. This film is the foundation of modern horror. Inspired loosely by Ed Gein, it follows a group of young people who stumbled upon the Sawyer family, a clan of cannibals surviving on the fringes of society. Leatherface here is not a slasher icon. He is panicked, childlike, reacting to intrusion. The horror comes from realism, not spectacle. The film defines the Sawyer timeline. Then we move on to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. This one is very fun. It's got a different vibe, a different feel than the first one. It's also directed by Tobe Hooper. The sequel does a complete tonal shift. It's louder, meaner, and openly satirical. The Sawyers become grotesque caricatures, and Leatherface becomes more expressive and bizarre. This isn't a mistake. It's Hooper attacking consumer culture and excess. Divisive, but intentional. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. This one has Bill Moseley in it as Chop Top. Fantastic role for him. And a little side note here, I was actually reading something the other day that Michael Keaton said that his portrayal of Beetlejuice was some of the parts of Beetlejuice he based off of Chop Top, which I thought was really cool. And if you've seen the movie and you've seen Beetlejuice, you'd probably be able to make some of that correlation now knowing that. After this, we move on to Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. This entry attempts to pull the franchise back towards seriousness. New Sawyer family members, a more traditional slasher structure. It's less extreme than Part 2 and often viewed as a transitional sequel, trying to find stable ground. Then we move on to one that I actually just recently watched again, and wow, it's something else. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. This one is pretty interesting. It has Matthew McConaughey, a young Matthew McConaughey, and Renee Zellweger in it. Very interesting. If you want to go back and kind of see what they were doing, you should check it out. And also, as a little side note here, a lot of big stars get their start in these horror movies. You know, Johnny Depp being in Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Kevin Bacon, Friday the 13th, Jennifer Aniston in The Leprechaun. So you see a lot of these big stars. They come from these, campy horror movies and slashers. It's kind of cool, actually, seeing how their careers develop from there. So back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. Yes, the infamous one. This film pushes the Sawyer family into near absurdity. The family is now wealthy, conspiratorial, almost cult-like. The tone is chaotic and experimental. This is generally considered the end of the Sawyer timeline, even if it barely resembles where it started. After that, we move on to a project called the All-American Massacre. This was a lost Texas Chainsaw movie, directed by William Hooper, son of Tobe Hooper. All-American Massacre was intended as a dark comedy spin-off focusing on Chop Top, the fan-favorite character from Part 2, Bill Moseley, as I was saying. Excellent character. The film was never officially released, though rough cuts and footage exist. It's generally considered non-canon, but it represents the final attempt to extend the Sawyer timeline. It can be hard to find if you find it at all, but it still is out there, so I included it in this timeline. Next, we're going to move on to the Hewitt timeline, which is the remake continuity. In 2003, the franchise resets entirely. New family, new continuity, new Leatherface. And I get slack for this from a lot of, true fans and everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The very first one is dear and near and dear to my heart. But I will say that if I was pushed to choose, the 2003 remake is probably my favorite Texas Chainsaw movie. I just feel like it pressed all of the buttons for me. And that's just my personal opinion. It's probably my favorite, even though, like I said, I will always hold the original true to my heart. We all like what we like, and that's fine. So, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Marcus Nispel, this remake reimages the story with a grimy, brutal tone. Leatherface is now larger, more aggressive, more traditionally monstrous. The family is renamed the Hewitts. This film was a major box office success, reintroducing the franchise to a new generation. Starred Jessica Biel, who looked phenomenal in the movie and also did a great job acting in the movie. I really noticed her there. That's probably the movie that made me pay attention to her at all, quite frankly. Then after that, we move on to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, a direct prequel to the 2003 remake. The film explores Leatherface's childhood, the Hewitt family dynamics, the origin of the violence. It's one of the bleakest entries in the franchise and marks the end of the Hewitt timeline. That was quick. So, after that, we end up with the modern era, legacy and reboot timelines. After 2006, the franchise becomes timeline fractured. Texas Chainsaw 3D, this film directly follows the 1974 original, ignoring every sequel. It attempts to modernize Leatherface and controversially reframes him as a misunderstood figure rather than a pure villain. This shift was widely criticized. After that, we ended up with Leatherface, a standalone prequel with a twist. The film tries to humanize Leatherface, present him as a tragic figure, and it adds psychological depth. Reception was mixed, and it failed to solidify a clear new direction. After that, we end up with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that we had on Netflix. In that movie, it ignores everything except for the 1974 original. Set decades later, it leans heavily into legacy trauma, generational conflict, modern slasher brutality. The response was sharply divided, with praise for violence and criticism for misunderstanding the character. So why Texas Chainsaw struggles with continuity? Unlike other slasher franchises, Leatherface isn't immortal. He isn't clever. He isn't in control. The franchise can't decide whether he's a monster, a victim, a symbol, or a slasher mascot. That identity crisis is why the timeline keeps resetting. A24 acquires the franchise, so what now? Now comes the most interesting development. A24 has acquired the rights to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That matters. 24 Horror prioritizes atmosphere, psychological dread, social commentary, character over spectacle, which aligns far more closely with the 1974 original than with most sequels. What we might expect, possibly, a stripped-down reboot, less emphasis on body count, more focus on environment and class. Leatherface as a byproduct of his world, not a mascot. The chainsaw doesn't need to be louder. It needs to be scarier. I'm quite curious to see what they do. And this is where I really want you guys to come in with the comments, because I want to talk about this. I want to know what you guys think. A24, you know what they're responsible for. They were responsible for Hereditary and Midsommar and so many movies that have come out recently. A24 is really a huge building force in horror, but their feel is very different also from a lot of other horror. So I'm wondering what that looks like, and I'm very curious to see what they do. So please comment if you're excited about this, or if you're, maybe even a little skeptical about this change, or why you're skeptical. I think it's going to be interesting either way. No matter what happens, it's probably going to be interesting. And as far as I'm concerned, pretty much almost any Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie so far has at least been interesting to me. I've liked all of them for one reason or another. Kind of can't wait to see what they do with it. I hope it's really fun and really interesting. And I don't know. Give me your thoughts. Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise has never been clean or consistent, but it has always mattered. At its best, it's not about killing. It's about poverty, isolation, family, and violence as inheritance. A24 that Leatherface may finally stop being rebooted and start being redefined. And that might be the most terrifying thing yet. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what happens. I've heard that they're possibly going to be doing a TV show. I'm a little skeptical about that. I don't know why we have to keep having TV shows. Everything these days has to be a TV show as well as movies. And for me, sometimes it just pushes it too far. It's just too much. We saw that with Nightmare on Elm Street and Welcome to Derry. I don't know. Sometimes I think things just don't need to have more. And that's when I wonder if we're really just getting involved in a huge cash grab. Something's popular, it makes money. So let's go ahead and, milk it for all it's worth. And I hate that because a lot of us, a lot of the fans, a lot of the true fans of these things, I mean, we really want these things to have and keep the soul. It's not just about making more or having more. It's about enjoying what there is and it being taken seriously and it being loved and appreciated by the people that are creating it. I think that really shows through a lot of the time. And I think that's really important to a lot of people. I know it's important to me. Can't wait to see what happens. Let's talk about it. Please like and subscribe. And we'll be back with more soon. As always, I love you guys and I appreciate your comments and I appreciate you subscribing and liking. It means a lot to us here. See you soon.